Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of the Metabolism and Menopause podcast. My name is Stephanie, and I am your host. I am the CEO of Vitality OET. We are a nutrition and fitness company predominantly focused on women's health and hormones, particularly as you're going through perimenopause and menopause. And our goal is to help educate you so that you can understand what happens during all these hormonal changes, how to take care of this new body, because we all know that the eat less, move more, doing a ton of cardio, cutting calories, cutting carbs isn't working anymore. So we're here to educate you on why, help you understand what's going on so that you can set yourself up for success and feel like yourself again. Today, what I really want to talk about is progesterone and fat loss and stress and how all these things are so incredibly important for your fat loss journey when you're going through perimenopause and menopause. So I get questions about progesterone all the time, and people ask me like, how does it affect women when our levels are imbalanced? How does it help with fat loss? What's the importance of it? I hear about it all the time. My progesterone levels are really low. What can I do? So we're going to cover all that here for you today. So there are a lot of things that progesterone is really important for. So first, let's talk about after ovulation and an egg is released, progesterone levels start to rise in order to prepare for pregnancy in the event that the egg is fertilized. If fertilization doesn't come, then progesterone levels start to fall and a new menstrual cycle will begin. You get your period. So progesterone is very, very important, not just for like regulating your menstrual cycle and for like fertility, but it works with androgens like testosterone to control other hormone levels. It's really, really important for weight maintenance. It actually contributes a ton for energy throughout the day and throughout the month. So through our cycle, energy in general, like very important, how it affects us that way. It affects our libido and our sex drive a ton, and it really helps regulate emotions and mood. So around perimenopause, our body's levels of progesterone really start to break down. It starts to drop. We'll see a rise and a fall, and eventually a complete fall of those progesterone levels once we get to that full stage of menopause. It'll fluctuate a ton as we're going through perimenopause because as the follicles start to weaken on our ovaries, hormones, some days you'll have a ton of progesterone, some days you'll have none. However, when we see that like sudden drop in progesterone, like if it's quite drastic, that's where you're typically going to see like a sudden excessive weight gain, where it's like, bam, I woke up and all of a sudden I have this huge menopausal belly and I don't know where it came from. Progesterone is one of the biggest factors contributing to this on like what we see typically. So if we are living in a high stress state for a long time, we can actually go into perimenopause with very little or no progesterone already in our bodies. So this is really important to get ahead of if you can. So if you have someone who's younger in your life that you think is in a very high stress state, send this to them. It might help them out in the future to make this transition during perimenopause and menopause significantly easier for you. But the reason that if we're living in a very high stress state, we're very go, rushing around, like we're very type A, we're doing the high intensity cardio, Orange Theory stuff. We're overachievers. We feel like we're constantly rushing around, taking care of other people, not focusing on our sleep. We're skipping meals. We're drinking a ton of caffeine. All of those things is just stress on top of stress on top of stress. And then you add in like low calorie diets, low carbs, tons of exercise. That's just more and more stress. Our body doesn't care that you're trying to lose weight. It just knows that it's in a stress state, in fight or flight, and it's doing what it needs to protect you, to basically help you survive. But the issue with this is that our cortisol levels, if they are high all the time, like our stress hormone, that's what is increased when we're stressed, that is actually going to cause a lot of issues with progesterone and cause it to decrease even quicker. And this is because progesterone is made up from a precursor hormone called pregnenolone. This hormone is used to make our stress hormone cortisol as well. So when we are stressed, our body will actually steal that away from progesterone and give it to cortisol so that we can make more cortisol, which is effectively just taking it away from our body's ability to make more progesterone as it needs. So we're already at a disadvantage during perimenopause and menopause. Progesterone's already decreasing. So if we're in a high stress state, doing all the cardio, all that kind of stuff, we're going to see progesterone decrease even quicker. Or you're going into this transition with low progesterone already and it just hits you like a truck. And maybe that truck backs up and runs you over. Like that's how it feels. So two things can happen when progesterone levels are not where they should be. One is we get low progesterone symptoms, obviously. But a lot of the times in perimenopause, this can actually cause estrogen levels to be too high in comparison. So we want them to be balanced, progesterone and estrogen. So if estrogen is high compared to progesterone, because progesterone is decreasing too quickly, we are going to get symptoms of estrogen dominance as well. So these symptoms can be super terrible. I'm going to read them off for you here. It's a nice long list. It can result in heavy bleeding. Progesterone has been shown to help decrease menstrual bleeding levels. So if you don't have adequate amounts, typically you're going to have heavier bleeding. Weight gain or trouble losing weight, a decrease in sex drive. You're going to have more mood swings. Typically, you'll have signs of depression as well. PMS symptoms, irregular menstrual cycles where it's like not cyclical, breast tenderness, fibrotic breasts. You can even develop fibroids or gallbladder problems, hot flashes, migraines, headaches, anxiety, and other mood changes. So there are a lot of negative consequences from having these high cortisol levels, which is then going to result in your low progesterone levels. So another interesting thing to note is that progesterone is anti-androgenic. So what that means is that it helps control the androgen levels in our bodies. We produce many androgens in the body. The most well-known one is testosterone. That's an androgen, and that in high levels can actually be detrimental to our health. So high androgen levels in particular can lead to PCOS, which is something that I struggle with personally. And then you can have a ton of symptoms from that as well, such as like insulin resistance, facial hair growth, more hair growth on the body, dark patches on your skin, oily skin, especially around like the chin, weight loss resistance. There are so many symptoms that can come with PCOS. And this is from androgens being too high. So if progesterone levels are low, like before you even get into perimenopause, this can trigger your androgens to be higher, leading to PCOS, leading to those symptoms. Then you hit perimenopause and it's a little bit of a shitstorm, which kind of sucks. So trying to like educate yourself as best as you can and understand preventative matters, or we're going to talk about today, like what you can do to help improve your levels once you're already there. Because for some of you, you may have already been dealing with this. So we want to make sure that we are helping you as best as we can. You're also, again, that excessive weight gain is pretty typical as well with like the PCOS, high androgens, low progesterone levels. And unfortunately, it does lead to a ton of hormonal imbalances. And I only want to point this out is because we don't typically look at the full picture when we look at hormonal imbalances. We've worked with several women with issues that don't actually look at progesterone as being part of the problem when we're struggling to work with something like PCOS. So people will try and give you like birth control pills. People will try and give you like weight loss pills, things like that if you're struggling, or they just look at the certain single hormonal level and they forget there's a person attached to this. They don't ask about like, how's your stress? How's your digestion? Do you have support at home? What's your work satisfaction like? How is your financial status? How is your stress, your sleep? All of these things really contribute to cortisol. Cortisol is going to contribute to your hormone levels because there's a hierarchy. So we need to take a step back and really look at the person as a whole, because there is so much more to the person than just a number for testing a level of a hormone. We need to take a bigger, fuller picture, because that's how you actually get to solve the problems and the root cause, as opposed to just like giving these band-aid approaches that don't typically work well, because it might help with your symptoms in the meantime, but the underlying issue is still there. So now, low progesterone can be mistaken for other hormonal imbalances, which is why it's really important to get tested when you can, so that we can get a better idea as to what's going on. The best way to do this is through a Dutch test. It's something that we do offer. So if that's something that you're interested in, you can head to the show notes below and we'll show you where you can get those. And it does come with a consultation to help you figure out what's going on in your body, what you should be doing, help you figure out a estimated calorie intake, your macros, all that kind of stuff to really help you figure out and understand what's going on in your body and how you can actually do something about it. So if you are suspecting that your progesterone levels are low, or you know that they're low, there are a ton of things that you can do to set yourself up for success, to start improving those levels, and put you in a better position so that you can achieve weight loss, so that you can sleep better, have better energy, have your libido come back. That's one of my favorite things that people tell me. They're like, oh my goodness, like things are improving, energy is better, libido is up, I'm sleeping more. Like, this is exactly what you need to get your body into a position to lose weight. Because if you are suffering with all those symptoms, do you really think stressing your body out more by eating less is going to result somehow in a positive change in what you're looking for? No. So it's really important to make sure that we're addressing this as best as we can. So step one over everything is de-stress CTFO, which is termed chill the fuck out, CTFO, we all need to learn to relax. We need to de-stress. And I know that we say this for literally every topic that we ever talk about when we talk about hormones and fat loss and exercise and all these things. But it is the cause of 99% of our problems because cortisol is like the puppeteer master that affects everything else in our body. So it's really, really important to get those levels under control. And some of you might be like, well, my cortisol levels are testing low. And that's because you've been testing high and at a high stressed state for so long that now your adrenals are burning out. So we need to do everything that we can to take stress off the adrenals. So the same things apply. You need to learn to relax. And I know that's not helpful when someone's like, oh, you're overreacting, you need to relax. And then you want to punch them in the face. Yeah, it's not what we're talking about here. So there are a ton of things that we can do to help lower your stress so that you don't have cortisol taking away the precursor to build progesterone and really set you up for success. So this doesn't mean that you have to like meditate or do yoga. Because for me, that stuff doesn't work. My brain goes a mile a minute. It's not realistic. It's not going to work for me. So this can be like going for a light walk. This can be listening to some music. This can be reading a non-stimulating book. This can be going for a massage, having a bath. But literally just taking 5 to 10 minutes out of your day, at least once in the middle of the day, and then if you can in the evenings, will make a huge difference of getting your body out of that fight or flight response and into that rest and digest portion of your nervous system, which is so, so important. The next one to help remove the stress and lower those cortisol levels is to make sure that you are eating enough. Now, a lot of people are like, I feel like I eat enough. I'm not hungry. No, you're not hungry because you're in fight or flight mode and your body's just trying to like get through the day. And then as soon as you learn to relax, that's when you get hit with hunger. Yeah, we need to make sure that we're fixing that. So calories are a form of recovery and stress management too. So a lack of calories can actually blunt your hormone production, especially progesterone and actually your thyroid hormone as well. So if you are eating too little, it is really important to ensure that you start reverse dieting properly up to an appropriate calorie intake for your hormones to function properly. Because if we're not eating enough, that's just a stress. And during perimenopause and menopause in particular, what you thought was low calorie before is probably incredibly low calorie. And what you think is normal now is actually probably still low calorie for you. Low calories is termed as less than 1,600 calories a day medically. So I bet a lot of you are under eating. And when you are not eating enough, again, that's a stress on our body. And during perimenopause and menopause, our stress tolerance level has decreased substantially. So before it might have only taken, let's just use arbitrary numbers just to give you an example. Before you might have to get to a level 9 for your cortisol levels to start increasing. Now it might only be a level 6 because as estrogen decreases, we don't have that hormonal buffer anymore. So now instead of having the dog poop on the floor, your husband piss you off, and you're not getting enough sleep, those will tip you over. Whereas before you could also have your daughter making you mad and your boss making you mad or whatever it is. Like now our stress tolerance decreases substantially. And now it's a lot easier for those cortisol levels to spike, not to mention we're already dealing with like insulin resistance. We're already dealing with like fat loss resistance. Our thyroid function is starting to decrease. Estrogen and progesterone are naturally decreasing. So there's all these things that are already happening. So we really have to make sure that we decrease our cortisol levels to keep all of those in check. So very, very important to make sure you're eating enough, especially when you start going into high levels of stress. We can't necessarily change our circumstances. Like maybe you can't quit your job. Maybe you can't control what's going on in your life. So we have to learn to buffer that with the appropriate amount of food. If you need help with that, just like message us, contact us. We help people figure out their calories and macros for free all of the time. So like, do not hesitate to reach out and do that. That's like one of my favorite things to do because it can really change a lot of people's lives. And you will notice like energy and sleep in particular will start to improve drastically right away. The next thing that you can do to help improve your progesterone levels is to take a vitamin B complex. People in particular who've been on birth control for long periods of time or are struggling with hormonal issues are typically going to be deficient in our B vitamins. And it's not just B12. So you want to make sure you're getting a B complex. B vitamins are responsible for cellular metabolism and are a key component in the progesterone building pathway. So try and aim for like a B50 complex with water at the start of your day for best results. I'm just realizing now I didn't take mine. I'm going to have to do that after this podcast. But that is the best way to help. You do not want to take your vitamin B50 or B complex at the end of the day, because it can actually negatively affect your sleep, because it is an energizing vitamin. So make sure that you're taking it in the morning. The next thing that you can do is increase your healthy fats. Studies have actually shown that increasing your polyunsaturated fat intake, so omega-3s and 9s found in like fish, walnuts, flax, stuff like that, can actually increase natural progesterone production as well. Not to mention that there's like a ton of other health benefits for omega-3s, such as like anti-inflammation, our brain health, and things like that. The other one that you can do is we want to make sure that we're addressing any nutritional deficiencies that you might have. Things like magnesium, chromium, and zinc play huge roles in progesterone production, but we tend to typically be deficient in these nutrients. So those are worth looking into taking if you feel like you're struggling with that. In our coaching process, we do have a nutritional deficiencies assessment that can help us determine where you could be lacking for certain nutrition or certain nutrients in your body or in your diet. So if you're interested in that, you can always comment below and we're happy to help you with that as well. But if you're in perimenopause and menopause, just talk to your doctor about testing, possible treatments for low progesterone. I know this is something that a lot of women struggle with. And honestly, the biggest things that you can do is like make sure you're eating enough food, having adequate carbohydrates, and focusing on proper de-stressing can make a huge difference for you. You may have to ditch like your high intensity cardio type exercises and lean towards more restorative stuff, doing more walking or lifting heavy with like longer rest periods. Those are the biggest changes that we see that produce the best results for people and really help with symptom management. So again, if you guys have any questions at all, you know where to find us. We're always happy to help. And we will talk to you soon. Hope you enjoyed it.